My mom and stepdad kept a 28-year secret. He's actually my biological father. Just when I started to forgive them, I found out about my hidden half-sister. I never imagined I'd be sharing this story, but here I am, still reeling from the events that unfolded at my mom's 50th birthday party last weekend. I'm Louis, 28M, and for as long as I can remember, it's been just my mom, Michelle, 50F, and me against the world. Mom raised me single-handedly after my dad supposedly left when I was just a baby. Growing up, I never knew him, and Mom rarely spoke about him. It was always just the two of us, and honestly, we were content that way. Our life wasn't always easy. Mom worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. She was a waitress during the day and a night shift receptionist at a local hotel. Despite her busy schedule, she always made time for me. I remember countless nights of her helping me with homework after her shifts, her eyes tired but her smile never faltering. We didn't have much, but Mom made sure I never felt like I was missing out on anything. As a kid, I used to wonder about my dad sometimes. I'd see other kids with their fathers at school events or in the park, and I'd feel a twinge of curiosity. But Mom always reassured me that we were enough, just the two of us. She'd tell me stories about her own childhood, about her dreams for the future, and somehow, those stories filled the void. Things changed when I was 16. Mom met Martin, 55M, at the hotel where she worked. He was a businessman who frequently stayed there during his trips to our town. They hit it off, and before long, they were dating. I was happy for Mom. She deserved some happiness after all the sacrifices she'd made for me. Martin seemed like a decent guy, always polite and trying to connect with me. A year later, they got married. It was a small ceremony, just us and a few close friends. I remember feeling a mix of emotions that day, joy for my mom, but also a strange sense of loss. Our little 2-person family was changing, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it. Martin moved in with us, and suddenly, I had a stepfather. He was kind enough, always asking about my day and offering advice about school and my future. But we never really clicked. There was always a bit of awkwardness between us, like we were both trying to figure out our roles in this new family dynamic. I moved out for college 2 years later, so I didn't spend much time living with Martin. During my visits home, things were cordial but not particularly close. I focused on my studies and building my own life, while Mom and Martin settled into their married life. Fast forward to last weekend. Mom was turning 50, and Martin decided to throw her a big party. He rented out a local community center and invited everyone, friends, family, even some of Mom's old co-workers from her waitressing days. I flew in from out of state for the occasion, excited to celebrate with Mom and catch up with everyone. The party was in full swing when I arrived. The room was decorated with balloons and streamers, and there was a huge banner that read Happy 50th, Michelle. Mom was radiant, moving from group to group, hugging old friends and laughing at shared memories. I mingled with the guests, many of whom I hadn't seen in years. Aunt Lisa, 47F, Mom's younger sister, cornered me to catch up on my life and career. As the night progressed, Martin stood up to make a toast. He clinked his glass to get everyone's attention, and the room fell silent. He started by talking about how much he loved Mom and how happy they've been together. It was sweet, and I could see Mom beaming with pride and affection. But then, Martin's tone changed. He looked directly at me, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "Louis," he said, his voice carrying across the now silent room, "there's something you need to know. Your mother and I have been keeping a secret from you for years, and it's time you learned the truth." The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I felt everyone's eyes on me as Martin continued, "I'm not just your stepfather. I'm your biological father." For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. This couldn't be real. I looked at Mom, expecting her to jump up and deny it, to say it was all a terrible joke. But she just sat there, tears streaming down her face, nodding slowly. Martin went on to explain that he and Mom had a brief relationship before I was born. They met at a mutual friend's party and had a whirlwind romance. But when Mom found out she was pregnant, Martin panicked. He wasn't ready to be a father and left town, leaving Mom to raise me alone. He said he regretted his decision every day since then. According to Martin, when they reconnected years later, they recognized each other immediately. They decided to keep the truth from me to avoid complicating things, thinking it would be easier for everyone if Martin just became my stepfather. As Martin spoke, memories started flooding back. I remembered the first time I met Martin, how Mom seemed nervous and how Martin kept staring at me with an intensity I couldn't understand at the time. I thought about all the times over the years when Martin tried to give me advice or bond with me, and how I had brushed him off, thinking he was just trying too hard to be a stepfather. I felt like the ground had disappeared from under my feet. My whole life, my whole identity, was built on a lie. I had grown up thinking I was abandoned by my father, only to find out he had been right there, pretending to be someone else. Without saying a word, I got up and left the party. I couldn't bear to be there anymore, surrounded by people who probably all knew the truth except me. I ignored the calls from Mom and Martin as I drove home, my mind racing with questions and emotions. It's been a week since the party, and I still haven't spoken to either of them. They've both tried to reach out, leaving voicemails and sending texts apologizing and asking to talk. But I'm not ready. I feel betrayed, angry, and confused all at once. I keep replaying memories in my head, trying to spot the signs I missed. All those times Martin tried to connect with me, was that guilt? The way Mom sometimes looked sad when I talked about not having a dad, was she battling with whether to tell me the truth? I'm also grappling with how this changes my perception of my childhood. I always thought of myself as someone who grew up without a father, who was abandoned. It was part of my identity. Now, I have to reconcile that with the fact that my father was there all along, just pretending to be someone else. My friends have been supportive, but they don't really know what to say. How do you even begin to process something like this? I've been going through old photos and mementos, trying to make sense of it all. There's a photo of Martin holding me at my high school graduation. At the time, I thought he was just being a supportive stepfather. Now, I wonder what was going through his mind at that moment. I'm not sure what to do next. Part of me wants to hear them out, to understand why they kept this secret for so long. Another part of me is so angry that I don't want anything to do with them. I keep thinking about all the Father's Days I spent feeling sad and abandoned, while my real father was right there, celebrating with his stepson. The betrayal feels overwhelming. Not just from Martin, but from Mom too. She let me believe a lie my whole life. How can I trust anything she says now? I'm also struggling with how to move forward. Do I try to build a relationship with Martin as my father? Do I distance myself from both of them? How do I even begin to forgive this level of deception? For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I'm focusing on work and trying to maintain some sense of normalcy in my life. But the truth is, everything feels different now. My past, my family, my identity, it's all been called into question. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know it won't be easy. Any advice on how to navigate this situation would be appreciated. How do you rebuild trust after a lie this big? How do you rethink your entire life story? I'm lost, and I don't know where to go from here. Update 1: It's been 3 months since the bombshell at my mom's birthday party, and I wanted to give an update on what's happened since then. These past months have been a roller coaster of emotions, filled with difficult conversations and painful realizations. After about 2 weeks of complete silence, I finally agreed to meet with my mom and Martin. I needed answers, and I felt like I deserved an explanation face to face. We met at a quiet coffee shop in town, a neutral location where I felt I could leave if things got too intense. The conversation was tense and emotional from the start. Mom couldn't stop crying, apologizing over and over for keeping the truth from me. Martin tried to explain his side of things, how he was young and scared when Mom got pregnant, and how he regretted walking away every day since. They told me the full story of their past. They had met at a mutual friend's party when Mom was 21 and Martin was 26. They had a whirlwind romance that lasted a few months before Martin had to leave town for a job opportunity. When Mom found out she was pregnant, she called Martin to tell him. But Martin, focused on his budding career and not ready for the responsibility of a child, told her he couldn't be a father and cut off contact. Mom was devastated but determined to raise me on her own. She moved to a new town, got 2 jobs, and built a life for us. She told me how she used to look at me as a baby and see Martin's eyes staring back at her, how it both comforted and pained her. Martin shared how he had thought about us over the years, how the guilt ate at him. He had even hired a private investigator at one point to find out how we were doing, but he never had the courage to reach out. When they reconnected years later, it was by pure chance. Martin had started staying at the hotel where Mom worked during his business trips. They recognized each other immediately, and all the old feelings and regrets came rushing back. They started talking, and eventually, a relationship developed. They said they had planned to tell me the truth many times over the years but always found excuses not to. They convinced themselves that it was better for everyone if Martin just became my stepfather instead. They were afraid of how I would react, afraid of losing me. As I listened to their explanations, I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me understood their fear and the complicated situation they found themselves in. But another part of me couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I told them how hurt I was, how their lie had affected my entire sense of self. I explained that while I understood their fears, they had robbed me of the chance to know my real father for all these years. I told them about growing up feeling abandoned, about the times I cried on Father's Day, about how I had built my identity around being someone who grew up without a dad. I shared how confused and angry I felt now, having to reconcile all of that with the fact that my biological father had been in my life all along. The conversation was draining, and by the end, we were all emotionally exhausted. I told them I needed more time to process everything. They agreed to give me space, but both expressed hope that we could work through this eventually. After that meeting, I decided I needed some distance to really think things through. I told them I didn't want any contact for a while, and they reluctantly agreed to respect my wishes. During this time, I've done a lot of soul searching. I've thought about my childhood, my relationship with Martin, and how this revelation changes things. I've also had to deal with the reactions of other family members and friends who were at the party. It seems like everyone has an opinion on what I should do, which has been overwhelming at times. One unexpected development was that my Aunt Lisa reached out to me. She told me that she had known the truth all along and had urged Mom and Martin to tell me many times over the years. She apologized for keeping their secret and offered to talk if I needed someone to listen. I took Lisa up on her offer, and we've had several long conversations. She's been able to fill in some gaps, telling me about the time when Mom was pregnant with me and how Martin came back into our lives. It's been helpful to have someone who knows the whole story but isn't directly involved. Lisa shared some stories from that time that gave me a new perspective. She told me how devastated Mom was when Martin left, how she considered not keeping me, but ultimately decided that we would make it on our own. She told me about the struggles Mom faced as a single parent, the sacrifices she made that I never knew about. As for my relationship with Mom and Martin, it's still very strained. I've allowed limited contact, mainly through text messages, but I'm not ready for more than that. They've both expressed a desire to make things right, but I'm not sure if that's possible. The trust that was broken isn't easily repaired. I've also been dealing with some identity issues. Growing up without a father shaped a lot of who I am, and now I'm having to reevaluate that. I've started journaling and doing some self-reflection to try and make sense of it all. I'm questioning everything, my relationships, my trust issues, my fears of abandonment. It's like I'm getting to know myself all over again. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm focusing on my own well-being and trying to figure out what I want my relationship with Mom and Martin to look like going forward. It's not easy, but I'm doing my best to work through it. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know it will take time to heal from this betrayal and find a way forward. Update 2: It's been half a year since the revelation at my mom's birthday party, and I wanted to share another update on how things have progressed. These past few months have been a journey of healing, discovery, and unexpected turns. Over the past few months, I've slowly been rebuilding my relationship with my mom. We started with short phone calls, then progressed to meeting for coffee every couple of weeks. It's been difficult, but we're both trying to repair the damage done by years of secrecy. Mom has been patient, answering my questions honestly and giving me space when I need it. We've had some heated arguments, but also some moments of understanding and reconnection. My relationship with Martin, however, has been more complicated. I'm still struggling to see him as my father rather than just my stepfather. We've had a few awkward meetings, but there's a lot of tension and unresolved feelings between us. Martin has been trying to make amends, sending me old photos and mementos from my childhood that I didn't know he had kept. It's strange to see these pieces of my past through this new lens. One significant development happened about a month ago. Martin reached out and asked if we could meet privately. He said he had something important to tell me. Curious and a bit apprehensive, I agreed. When we met, Martin dropped another bombshell. He confessed that he had another child from a previous relationship, a daughter named Emily, 30F. She was born just before he met my mom, and he had kept in touch with her secretly over the years. I was stunned. Not only did I have a biological father I never knew about, but I also had a half-sister. Martin explained that he had a brief relationship with Emily's mother right before he met my mom. When she got pregnant, he decided to stay involved in Emily's life, albeit from a distance. He said he felt guilty for being in Emily's life while keeping the truth from me, which was part of why he finally decided to come clean at the birthday party. This new information threw me for a loop. I felt a mix of anger at Martin for keeping even more secrets, and curiosity about this sister I never knew I had. After some thought, I decided to reach out to Emily. We met for lunch last week, and it was surreal. We looked nothing alike, but there were little mannerisms and traits we shared that were unmistakable. Emily was just as shocked as I was to learn about me. She had always known Martin was her father but had no idea he had another child. Talking with Emily has been a strange but somewhat healing experience. We've been sharing stories about our lives and our experiences with Martin. It's helped me see things from a different perspective and understand the complexity of the situation. Emily told me about her own complicated relationship with Martin, how he was present but distant throughout her life. It made me realize that even though he was physically present in her life, Emily had her own struggles with Martin's role as a father. As we talked, Emily and I discovered we had more in common than we thought. We both grew up with single mothers, though under different circumstances. We both struggled with trust issues in our relationships. And we both felt a mix of anger and longing towards Martin. Emily shared some stories about Martin that gave me a new perspective on him. She told me about times when he showed up for her school events or helped her through tough times. It was strange to hear about this side of him that I never knew existed. It made me wonder about the father he could have been to me if things had been different. As for my relationship with Mom and Martin, it's still a work in progress. I'm trying to forgive them, but it's not easy. The addition of Emily to the picture has added another layer of complication to an already difficult situation. Mom was shocked to learn about Emily and has been struggling with her own feelings of betrayal and insecurity. For now, I'm taking things slowly. I'm getting to know Emily better and trying to figure out what kind of relationship I want with her. We've been texting regularly and plan to meet up again soon. It's strange to suddenly have a sister after 28 years of being an only child, but there's also something comforting about it. With Mom and Martin, I'm setting clear boundaries and being honest about my feelings. I've told them that while I'm willing to work on our relationships, it will take time to rebuild trust. We've started having family dinners once a month, which are still awkward but getting a little easier each time. It's a lot to process, but I'm doing my best to navigate this new reality. I'm not sure what the future holds for our family, but I'm hopeful that with time and effort, we can find a way forward. Update 3: It's been a full year since the truth came out at my mom's birthday party, and I wanted to give a final update on where things stand now. The past few months have been a roller coaster of emotions and events. My relationship with my mom has slowly improved. We've had many long, honest conversations about the past, and while I can't say I've fully forgiven her, I understand her perspective better now. We're working on rebuilding trust, and I can see how much effort she's putting into making things right. Mom has been seeing a therapist to work through her own issues, which has helped her communicate better with me. She's shared more details about her life as a young single mother, and I've gained a new appreciation for the sacrifices she made for me. My relationship with Martin, however, has taken an unexpected turn. As I got to know Emily better and learned more about Martin's relationship with her over the years, I discovered some troubling inconsistencies in his story. It turned out that Martin had been far more involved in Emily's life than he initially let on, even attending her college graduation and important life events while continuing to keep me in the dark. This revelation was the last straw for me. I confronted Martin about it, and his excuses and justifications only made things worse. He tried to explain that he felt guilty about abandoning me and was trying to make it up by being there for Emily, but his actions showed a clear pattern of deception and favoritism. After much soul-searching, I made the difficult decision to cut Martin out of my life. It wasn't an easy choice, but I felt it was necessary for my own well-being and mental health. I told him that while I appreciated him coming clean eventually, the years of lies and the continued deception about Emily had damaged our relationship beyond repair. This decision has had ripple effects throughout the family. My mom was initially upset, but after I explained my reasons, she's been supportive of my choice. She's committed to maintaining her relationship with me separately from her marriage to Martin. It's been challenging for her, but she's respecting my boundaries. As for Emily, we've actually grown closer through this whole ordeal. We've bonded over our shared experiences and frustrations with Martin's behavior. She's been an unexpected source of support and understanding, and I'm grateful to have her in my life now. We meet up regularly and have even started a tradition of monthly sibling dinners. The rest of the family has had mixed reactions. Some understand my decision, while others think I'm being too harsh. I've had to set clear boundaries with those who try to pressure me into reconciling with Martin. It's been tough, but I'm learning to stand firm in my decisions. Looking back on this year, I can see how much I've grown and changed. While the revelation at my mom's birthday party turned my world upside down, it also forced me to confront some hard truths and make difficult decisions. I've learned a lot about myself, about family dynamics, and about the complexities of forgiveness and trust. I'm still working on healing and moving forward. I'm focusing on building positive relationships with the family members who respect my boundaries and support me. My relationship with my mom continues to improve, and I'm grateful for the honesty and effort she's putting into our relationship now. As for the future, I'm cautiously optimistic. My family looks different than I ever imagined it would, but I'm learning to define family on my own terms. It's not always easy, but I'm taking it one day at a time and focusing on the relationships that bring positivity into my life. This whole experience has taught me a lot about the importance of honesty, the complexity of family dynamics, and the strength it takes to stand up for yourself. While I wouldn't wish this situation on anyone, I can say that I've come out of it with a clearer sense of who I am and what I want in my relationships.